Welcome to Students of Sales, the ultimate resource for aspiring sales professionals. So, if you're looking to boost your sales skills and take your career to the next level, once again, you're in the right place. Every week, we bring you guys professional insights, practical tips, and real world strategies to help you close more deals and build long lasting relationships with your clients. So, grab your headphones, get ready to crush your sales goals. It's time to once again become a student of sales. As always, I'm here with my two co hosts, Tyler Witt, Phil Mann, and today we're talking about being your own boss. And so um, I read it somewhere that like the top 3% of salespeople look at themselves as self-employed or entrepreneurs. And so, for a lot of us, at least three of us here, being in sales feels a lot like being an entrepreneur. And so, Phil, why don't you kind of kick us off today and give us your thoughts on, why being your own boss or having a be your own boss mindset and mentality is so important in sales today.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mason. I feel like when you start out in sales, you're kind of given a boss or a manager, and I hate those words because no one is um, in charge of your destiny more than yourself. It's such a juvenile or childlike mindset to have a boss. Like they're not getting out of bed for you. They're not choosing how hard you work or how many hours you're putting in a day. So there's no boss, no politician, no teacher, no banker, no nothing that's going to dictate your success. It is literally you and that psychological shift that you make as an individual. That, like, pour to myself, I am the CEO of Philman Incorporated, and I write my own paychecks. And in sales, you often you talk about writing your own paycheck. I don't mean that like figuratively or literally. Ultimately, might have a base and X amount of commission, but you choose based on how hard you work, which is the beauty of sales. You choose um your commission check. So like I just hate the word boss. You just need to remove that from your vocabulary. And I have a leadership team. I've been with the business for over 12 years. I have a leadership team. I have a leader. I don't have a boss. It's that's just a different way of looking at something. So for me, just that psychological shift that there's no boss that's dictating my success. It's me. It's the commitment that I make to myself, to my role, to the business, to my overall success. But I do think you just need to make that psychological shift that you are your own CEO. So, I mean, Tyler, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me that was kind of it's funny when we are talking about this. The thing that popped in my head is when I first started in sales many moons ago. I was put on a team, and I kind of got this speech of you are your own boss, as CEO of you Inc. kind of thing. And I even got a little placard of it said Tyler Witt, and it said CEO underneath it, right? And that sat on my desk. I know I still have that somewhere. Probably throughout all the moves I've lost it, which would be really sad because it for me the biggest difference is going to be this: is I have all of the potential upside, right? All of the benefits of owning your own business, right? The benefit, the freedom, the financial, gains, like all of those, without any of the risk,
Right,
right? Without,
right.
like, that was to me the biggest thing. I like, just like you're saying, I have complete control. I control how much effort gets put in. I completely control the output and the outcome, like 100% in control of all of that. But I don't really have to worry about, did I make payroll? What does the new healthcare landscape look like for the employees? Marketing dollars that need to be spent. Like, I don't have any of that. So I have all of these resources of a company behind me, but yet all I have to do is take those resources, go out and sell the product. And Zig Ziglar used to say, this is one of my, so many great Zig Ziglar sayings, but he had this thing of, he'd look himself in the mirror every morning and he'd say, you know what? You deserve a raise. And he'd go out that day and he'd give himself one. And I think that, a lot of times, I don't want to sound like the curmudgeon here, right, or the old guy yelling at clouds, but I do think sometimes that gets lost in today when we talk about, oh, well, maybe we should just have a basic and then there's no commissions. What if we just had team targets and we had all this? Like, I feel like we're just taking some of that. The whole reason I got into sales because I didn't want to have to rely on, anybody else. Like, I'm glad to have the support, like, meaning, right, they're the ones that provided that for me. but I want to be rewarded for, the efforts I put in, and I don't want people to have to be reliant on me. Maybe a selfish thing to say, but like I have ran my own business before, and I know what it really takes to do it. And it's so much easier if I just show up, sell the product, and I can do all of that without having to worry about, is this person, going to make the paycheck, or is this person going to do this, that, and the other. Changes a bit once you get into leadership, admittedly, but that to me was the biggest thing for sales. It's all of that upside without any of the risk or bureaucracy or paperwork. And for those that think like, oh yeah, but my manager makes me update CRM, you have no idea what it's like running your own. You think they're bad. Wait till you have to answer the tax man
Yep.
for your payroll taxes, this, that, and the other. But Mace, I'm sure you got some pretty good insight into this as well. You've done
Yeah,
both
I
worlds.
do. Yeah, I do. I mean, this topic, it reminds me of when I first got into sales and my first kind of official sales job. Like most of us, it was by accident, right? My mom's best friend, she worked in recruiting for a little inside sales company that was downtown Phoenix. It was actually one of the cell phone providers, and she asked if me and my friends, wanted some summer jobs, and of course we did. Had no clue what we were doing. We got in there, and we're supposed to be selling basically cell phones and cell phone packages and such. And I remember getting in there, there was no coaching, no training, no sales coaching, training or development at all. It was just like get on the phones and just try to convince people to upgrade their phones or to pay their bills, or to upgrade their plans, and just kind of figure it out on your own. And I remember there was this one guy every day he would win, the same guy would win the spiff, and it was like, $50, $100, whatever it was, for like most sales each day. And it pissed me off so bad losing to this guy because I one, I didn't like him, and two, I thought I was better than him, right? But he was showing me up every day, winning these spiffs, and it drove me mad. And I was just like, and again, I come from a sports background, so I'm a sore loser. I hate to lose, and so I was self motivated and inspired to figure out how to win in sales, how to beat this guy, and so like you mentioned, Zig Ziglar, he was one of the guys I found some books on. Brian Tracy was one in particular, because I was like, there's no one here in the organization that's going to show me how to make money. There's no one in this organization that's going to show me how to be successful at this. So I've got to figure it out myself. And that's where the whole be your own boss kind of mindset really started, is because there was no one that was going to give me the keys to success there. I had to go find it myself. And so I remember listening to The Psychology of Sales on CD. One of the things Brian Tracy said was, and it motivated me to stay in sales and figure it out, is that in sales, you can write your own paycheck, right? You're in control of your financial destiny. That sounds like an entrepreneur to me. That sounds like a boss to me, where it's all on you. It's up to you. And I really resonated with that, and that inspired me to to learn more about sales and selling, and all the things that we talk about here. And it helped me come to the realization then and there that you are 100% in charge of your success or your failure in sales, and you're in charge the same way an entrepreneur is in charge of finances, same way an entrepreneur is in charge of for payroll, for sales, for marketing. As a sales professional, you're in charge of sales training and development, not the trainer. If you're fortunate enough to work for an organization that has a trainer or a training department, not even your manager is responsible for your sales training and development. At the end of the day, you are. And I've I've worked for a number of organizations, and most of them, didn't have training programs. And if they did have training programs, at the end of the day, it never was enough to get you to the next level. The
Right.
guys that were the most successful, they were putting in work on their own time. We were doing things on our own. We were building our own sales processes. We were building our own scripts and structures and things like that, because most of the time that wasn't available to us. So again, every aspect of it, like even on the marketing side, right? A lot of times, no, not to offend anybody that's in marketing, but a lot of the marketing copy and content stuff, it didn't help, right? It didn't resonate. So, we were creating our own marketing stuff, right? And so, and I think it was Brian Tracy that also said, like, you're in charge. You're in charge of production. You're in charge of quality control. you're in charge of your personal organization. Like if you think about it, every element that revolves around being successful in sales, it revolves around self accountability, and you putting in the work and depending and relying on yourself, not on the business, not on the tools and the resources that the business does or doesn't provide. And so, for me, in all accounts, you are your own boss. Granted, you might not have that title, but the responsibilities of an entrepreneur, of a boss, are certainly kind of key core components to being successful in sales. So that's my
But
rant, my take on it.
no, and I think you're right. And I think that, you guys are both kind of talking about there it is that shift, right? What both of you guys are kind of saying is it's that big shift of just of the mindset, of the ownership of your own success. And I think sales, I think everybody that's in sales knows that mindset is like that's the most important piece of it. That's the piece that is so elusive to most people that are in sales. And I think that mindset of owning your own success, it can be very challenging for people, right? It is easy to say, oh, well, marketing hasn't done this, or, product hasn't done this, or this and the other. And trust me, there are a million things they haven't done. There's a million more they aren't going to do, right? But once you kind of take that ownership of it, like, it's I'll use a Phil Manism here, right? Like it may be the reason why, you're not doing 1,000% to quota, but it's absolutely not the reason you're not doing quota, right? Like
Right.
that, the reason is because, Phil, you're telling the story earlier, and I'll kind of let you say it. But I think it's the only I, well, you used to tell the story about what was like the garbage, the people that come and pick up your garbage, right? So they come around your neighborhood. And let's say one day they went out drinking the night before, and they just decided not to come pick up your garbage that day, or they only picked up half of it, or they did your neighbor's street, the street two over, but they didn't do yours. Like they would be out of a job. Sales is one of the few professions where people come into work and they like, I know I was supposed to make $100 a day. I made 20 because I didn't feel well. Or I know I was supposed to book 2 appointments, but I didn't book any because like it's one of those few professions where you come in and again, like if that was the case, like if it was your business, and it's like I was supposed to get these deliveries out yesterday and I didn't, well then that means the next day you'd have to get those plus the ones that were scheduled that day. There is no passing the buck off to somebody else. And so to me, that though, I say all of that, but like that's actually very liberating because once you have that control, like, look, I get my job done. I've got a lot of freedom, especially now, like, being able to work
Oh,
remotely, you could work from
yeah.
anywhere, do whatever you want. Like once you take that ownership, you can have all the freedom you want. I think a lot of people don't experience that in sales because they don't have the ownership. They
Yeah.
have to have, unfortunately, you have to have that boss sitting there kind of telling you what to do next. And when you're in that situation, you're not your own boss. And that can be very,
Yeah.
that's opposite of empowering.
But if you think about it, here's something, just a silly thought. There's a reason why leaders don't earn 10 times as much as salespeople, right? Because it's not all about the leaders.
Yeah.
Like it's the salespeople that do the work. It's
Yeah.
hard, like it's really it's a grind, like, so it's not on your leadership, it's on you. So one of the great expressions back in the day was like, being at work for 8 hours and working for 8 hours are two wildly different things, like think about that. You can, you talk about being your own boss and dictating your own success. It's like, for me, it's always been the hard work piece. I was never as skilled starting off, so you can, it's so much easier to work harder than get more skilled, but I have a question for you, Mace, just on something that you were talking about. And again, goal isn't to upset any former leaders you have. And Tyler, I'm coming at you with the same question, but ultimately, you think about being your own boss, and I love that story you told, Mace. But do you think you learned more from books and podcasts yourself than you did from your leaders?
I would say yes. I did learn more from reading a bunch of the books and many more books that are back there and listening to, hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours of podcasts over the years. However, experience is what I learned the most from,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
No,
you can read
I
every,
get that.
yeah, you can read every book, and it's funny. I remember when I was a kid, I played basketball. I remember I bought a book on basketball, right? Just like
Right.
basic fundamental stuff. And I remember reading it, and as I'm reading, I'm like, this is great. This is good insight, but this could not replace actually picking up a basketball and
Right.
shooting it and dribbling it and such. And so, experience has been the greatest teacher, but the books, the podcast, they gave me kind of a roadmap of like,
But
where to
that's
go.
my point. But without
Yeah.
your efforts, without you taking that upon yourself, there's no way you would have gotten as far in your career or as quickly in your career as you have.
Oh,
So
not at all. Yeah.
same question, Tyler. Again, not throwing anyone under the bus, but do you think you learned more by yourself, or do you think it was given to you?
No, I think Mace is spot on there. I think it. So you're saying that there's a so one of the things I learned the most, and I talk a lot about it, is through my journey, in my fitness journey, right? Like going to the gym, this, that, and the other. They have this saying, right? So people go to the gym in droves, right? And they show up, and it's just, apologize for language, but it's called fuck around-itis, right? So it's a big epidemic in the fitness community, but it's going in and
I
you
feel
don't have a
attacked. I
plan.
feel attacked.
You're going in, you don't have a plan, right? You don't know exactly like, yeah, I'm gonna do some bench today, but like, do you have a pyramid scheme? How are you gonna get progressive overload? Like, which reps are you taking to failure? Like, is there a strategy behind it? So I bring that up because to answer your question of, I think that's what most salespeople, because they haven't taken the accountability of being in control of their own future and their own paycheck. They are not their own boss. They aren't acting like their own boss. They suffer from that condition, perpetually, right? So to your direct question there, I certainly learned a lot from leaders, all kinds of tidbits, great advice, this and the other. I'd say equally to books I've read, podcasts, this and that. But exactly what Mace is saying there. The difference was, because I had such an accountability towards my success, such a drive, that like I had the discipline then to put them into practice, right? So it was the experience with your teacher, but like not everybody has the accountability to then go put that into practice, to go know that they're going to fail and to go through the hours and to hit the phone enough to even get enough into practice, right? There's people who have the fear of phones, but so I think it was a combination of both, but I do think it's, learning from books and from mentors gave me a plan, and then going and executing that plan. And because I wanted my business to succeed, right? I had my goals. Here's my revenue goals I want for the year. Here's the activities I need to do to get there. I had a business plan of how to get there. I then executed that plan. And I do think a lot of people are showing up, and I think first step is awareness. Like, are you showing up with a plan and executing it? Are you waiting for somebody to tell you what you should be doing next, right? Like if you need to turn to your your boss, right? Like Phil, like how it is, they turn and they're like, all right, what should I do here? What do you think about this? What do you blah blah? Like that's, you're really going to hold yourself back for your own
Yeah.
future. Put together your plan. But what do you think, Phil? I mean, I guess we'll put the question to you.
Yeah.
It's that psychological shift we're talking about. Like just if this has been you in the last year or two, you get to the weekend, you're out with some friends or whatever, something like that, and you say the words, "Oh, my boss was a nightmare this week." If you've said that in the last year or two, you're doing it wrong. Like, and there's an article called "Managing Up," that's available on the website and stuff like that. It's just like, it's you're the boss, but also you just want to remove that word from your vocabulary because it's such a juvenile word. Like, you're the leader. You get 8 or whatever hours sleep. You focus on your nutrition. You come to work correct. And you're just like, okay, well, if I work my ass off for 8 hours, I can add X amount to my paycheck this month. You do have support. You need to start thinking as leadership as support. They're not doing the work for you. They can support you and
Yeah.
and coach and train and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, it's you. You're doing the hard work. You're
Yeah.
lifting the shovel.
Most of the time you're having that, like, those people that say like, oh, my boss is doing this, the complainer is this and that. It's probably because there is some aspect of your job you're not fulfilling. Like, we've all
But
been
again,
leaders.
my leadership doesn't bring that to me, Tyler. I bring, like, if I'm struggling on 2 or 3 things, I'm bringing that to them.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
But
hey,
that's
here's
a
the
big
things
mindset shift, though.
it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because you take ownership in your business right? Like
Right.
you're then looking for advisories, whereas they're still viewing you as an employee, and that's a big shift. When people, you tell people how to manage you, when you're acting like an employee, they will manage you like an employee. They will ask you about your timesheets.
Right.
They will
Yeah.
ask you about how many dials you made. They'll do all that. Once you start acting like that business owner professional, trust me, they will. I've had the worst, most horrific bosses before. People have just like hated and have written terrible things about online on like Glassdoor. Like I've had leaders like that. They've written awful things. And my relationship with them was actually like, yeah, I thought they were all right. I got
Yep.
along fine with them. And the difference is because they never had to check on me. They never had to see, oh, is he doing this? Did he do this? But other people, like they had to be micromanaged, and that person's ability to micromanage was but again, like
Yep.
that's a slightly different topic. But again, I think if you're acting like your own boss, you actually see how the relationships within your organization start changing, not just your own paychecks, but the relationships within your own organization. And I think it's kind of what you're saying there, right, Phil?
Absolutely. And I try not to sit on the fence on many topics, but I'll just kind of share real hard lines, a real kind of power statement. But ultimately, like if your leader is investing in your success more than you are yourself, then you deserve a boss. You don't deserve a leader. So that's a bit of a drop the mic, but ultimately, like you need to invest more than they do because like I said, they're not earning 10 times the amount as you. Like, they're not like gods. It's like ultimately they
No.
just probably have a little bit more of experience than you. They've probably been in the role a few more years, but ultimately you write your paycheck. You're the
And
boss.
if
So yeah,
you're doing it right, you should be earning more than that.
yeah. The
Like,
top so in some of the biggest, companies, SaaS companies in America, so there's some salespeople earning more than the C-suite.
yeah.
No, I mean it's like this. I mean, you guys, I've said this so many times, right? Salespeople are the professional athletes of the business world, right? The top professional athletes are considered superstars, right?
Mhm.
In sales, your superstars, right? The celebrities within your organization, it's not marketing. I'm just,
Right.
it's not finance. It's the sales guy. It's the top sales guys. They're the superstars, right? And the same way sports is a pay for performance type of a business, sales is the same way. And you think about the way the top athletes, how they got to where they are. What have they
Right.
spent their entire lives doing? Training, working on their
Right.
skills, working on their abilities. Yes, and every great athlete could give you a long list of great coaches that they've had along the way, and some of them had some not so good coaches as well. And but that was never the excuse for why they did or they didn't experience the success that they had. Coaches are there to remove roadblocks, right? To open up doors of opportunity, right? To show you what maybe you can't see. But to all of our points, at the end of the day, it's your work ethic, it's your attitude, it's your level of commitment, it's your level of determination, persistence, and consistency. That's what separates the superstars from the average and the below average. In sports as well as in sales. And so it is
Well,
it, it is all on you.
it reminds me of that old saying of like, if you're going to invest in somebody or invest in something, invest in yourself, right? Like for most of us, not all of us, right? We're not privileged to this, but for most of us, the greatest asset, right? The greatest asset we're ever going to have is ourselves, is our earning potential. What we're able to earn is the single biggest asset we're going to have in our lifetime. And I think that's kind of our point here is like when you talk about being your own boss, right? Okay, so if you were on the stock market, what's your stock doing it, right? Like, so look, some people, they get that, that 3% raise or whatever every single year, and they just kind of sit there and they just, float and they hang around until, basically some hostile takeover, right? Which happens at a certain age because they get burnt out and they just get flushed out of the sales world. Or are you somebody that's actively growing your stock value? And there is a big difference, and people notice the hot stocks when they hit the market. And so I think with let me ask this question: do you think that is a bit of a shifting culture? Like, do you think, I think for us, our ages, which we're not even that old. Like,
Whoa. We can't all be
Triggered.
painted with the same
I'm
brush there,
triggered.
Tyler.
but the point being is like, I do think, because I, is it just something on LinkedIn you see people talking about? Do you think that's a real movement of like, well, that, let's lower that bar, let's rein in some of those controls, and let's just kind of, make it an even more like a publicly traded kind of mutual fund rather than, a stock.
The final thing for me on this is I just had a flash forward, right, to one of our listeners, and I hope this happens. I hope this happens. Let's just call one of our listeners Brian, okay? And Brian currently works for Steve. Steve calls Brian up next Friday and says, hey, how you doing, Brian? How's it going? Brian says, can't talk now, Steve. Busy being my own boss. Click. That's the shift. That's the shift that needs to happen. Like, it's like Steve should just go, what just happened? Like, like seriously, it should be a moment, an internal moment. And it's like, holy shit, maybe there's something here. Maybe I'm acting like an employee instead of a business owner. And those are two wildly different days of the week as well.
Yeah. It's like the JFK. What's his famous? Ask not what you can do for your company. Ask what you can do for yourself.
Right.
Yep. That's it. Right. But again, it goes back to that old, Brian Tracy saying, right? You're in charge of your financial destiny, not your boss, not the company you work for. You are in charge of it, right? So that's the key, right? Take charge and, act as if, right? Act as if you are an entrepreneur. Act as if you are running, Tyler Witt Inc., right? Or Phil Mann, Incorporated. That's the attitude and mindset you have to take. And when you do that, right, it's almost impossible for you not to win, right? And either you win or you learn, right? So
Well, I think that'd be an interesting exercise to do. Just kind of my final would be like, you know, write down like a balance sheet, profit and loss, and business, plan for yourself, right? It's really not that hard. Like, I think you meet a lot of younger salespeople that say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to something, blah, blah. Do it. Like, you've got a product, you can go out and, so if you did an honest assessment, right? If you're a stock analyst, did an honest assessment of your last 6-12 months, what did it look like? What did your performance look like? How did you performed against, expectations? Like what were they? What did they look like? What were your weaknesses there? What's your business plan, going forward? What does that look like? What growth do you want to see? And I think for a lot of people, they would, I think it would be empowering, because I think for a lot of people, they'd start realizing like, I do control way more of this. Like, what's your marketing strategy? Right? If you have a territory, is it just wildly dialing in? I don't know, maybe, but like, what else could you be doing? Right? What else could you be doing to market yourself? Like, is it social selling? Is it, what is it, for free versions? You can get all types of emailing campaigns. You could actually run your own marketing. We had a guy, I won't name names, but this guy that he sat at a desk with us, Phil, worked on my team for a while, and he had like his own little marketing company out of there. It cost him $46 all in or something like that. But he had like, I mean, some instance of LinkedIn running, a HubSpot, a MailChimp, something like that, just running from his desk. And he would just generate himself inbounds, like better than our marketing department would at the time. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, you get 1 or 2 inbounds every single day. That was a guy that like knew how to, go about it. So I think for a lot of people, that realization, like taking that self-assessment of like, if I was my own business, how's my business doing? What direction is my business headed in right now? And what do I need to do to course correct that? How would I perceive, right? Like, if I'm looking as an investor, how would I look at this? And it's easy sometimes, I think, to think, right, like, okay, well, it's this person's job, it's this person. No. If you're your own business, it's nobody else's job. It's not your worker's job. Delivery didn't make it on time. It's your job. And I think to me, that is that mindset piece that we're talking about.
yeah, agreed.
Sure.
Right. Well, let's wrap it up there, guys. I really appreciate that. So I think we hit on a couple topics that, for anybody watching this, go to our website. Definitely a couple things in there around some of the mindset, some of the ownership, also some of the planning around, the financial stuff. It's all going to be found on our website. But always appreciate, everybody's time in listening. And as always, we've been Phil, Mace, and Tyler Witt, bringing you Students of Sales. Thank you all so much, and happy selling.
See you
Bye,
guys.
guys.